So hello, everyone. Welcome to the NPA. Just a couple announcements. We have our steering committee elections tonight. So if you're interested in joining us, if you're in wards 1 or 8, then please stay tuned for that. And then also we're going to try something new out tonight where we want to be able to hear from all of you. So what I'm going to do is read down the list of attendees and I will unmute you. So if you'd like to say hello to the group. So I'm just going to go name by name and you can say hi to the group. But if you don't want to do that, just raise your hand and I will skip over you. So yes, Karen, did you just promote?
Yeah, I unmuted Maddie. Is that what we're going to do?
Yeah. Are you going to do that or do you want me to?
No, I can do it.
Okay. So hi, Maddie.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you all again.
And then hi, Aiden.
Hi, Hannah. How are you?
I'm great. Hello, Bill.
Okay. I've unmuted him.
Okay. Hi, Bob.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, Brian.
Brian.
Hello, David. Okay. Hi, Gail.
They're all saying talking permitted, but it's not.
I had to unmute. This is Dave. Hi, I'm sorry I missed my opportunity there.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I think we'll just take a few seconds for them to be able to do it. Hi, Glenn.
Hi.
No, I want you to stay here.
Hello, Jean.
Sure, there's oxygen tanks and everything here waiting.
And then for anyone else that is just logging in, we're just going down the list of attendees so that way we can say hi, see who's in the room with us tonight. Hi, Joe.
You missed
Hello.
it, Mark.
Oh, hi, Jim.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here. Excited to listen.
Sorry, it's,
Joe, we have.
yep. Hi, Joe.
Hello, how's it going?
Hi, Jonathan.
Hello.
Hi, Karen. Hi, Lisa.
Hi there.
Hello, Mark.
Hello, glad to be here.
Hi, Pat. Hello, Mark.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Sandy.
Hi, everybody.
And then
We have
hey,
Soraya,
Skylar.
which I will.
Hi.
Sorry, people keep raising their hands, so then it kicks me up to the top, so I have to do it. Hi, Sophie.
Well,
And then yeah, it's freaking out on me.
Did you hear me? Because you just told me to unmute. So thanks so much. I'm very
Yeah.
glad that to know who's here.
And then I'm going to promote Zariah. So she'll be on the screen with us. So yeah, that's everyone on the list right now. So this was exciting. Great. So now, Karen, if you want to go through and then you can just de-promote them. So then it will take everyone off.
Okay, I did. I said lower all hands.
Yeah, so you're not
That's not-
lowering hands. You have to go like,
Okay, mute every one of them. Okay.
okay, perfect. Soraya, I'm going to make you a co-host. Oh, actually, I can't do that. So Karen,
I tried before though, it wouldn't do. Yeah, no, I know. I tried while we were.
You can still hear me. I think that's okay.
Yeah, but Karen, you're the only one that has the option to have people go onto the screen. So just for when we have presenters as well, because I'm only a co-host and you're the main host. Okay, so great. Now we're going to go into speak out. So if you would have anything to say to the group, please raise your hand and we will be able to unmute you. So Maddie, I'm going to unmute you now and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
so start now. Yes.
Yes, that's great.
Okay. So my name is Maddie Posig, and the reason that I would like to speak tonight is I would really like to thank Moreau and all of the city councilors, the entire city council, for passing those emergency measures a few weeks ago, right before the students came back, having the bars close earlier at 11 p.m., limiting the number of people at gatherings to 10 inside, 25 outside. I really think it's made a difference in keeping the virus numbers low. And I would also like to encourage Moreau and the city council. I believe that you guys added an amendment to revisit this. Jack, could you just nod if that's true on September 14th? That's what I thought. And I feel like when you guys had the emergency meeting, I didn't even know it was at noon. I thought it was in the evening. And so I feel like the bar owners organized together to call into your meeting and really promote that closing at 11 was just going to absolutely destroy them. And I watched a lot of Governor Cuomo's press conferences. And what he said over and over again when the virus was surging throughout New York State and specifically New York City was that lives came before finances, and he was going to open slowly and he was going to take care of public health first. because if there were no people, then there wouldn't really be an economy. And I think we've all seen what happened in New York State, that they were the absolute worst. And now they have one of the lowest positivity rates in the country. And it's because he's been really thoughtful about opening. In fact, they just announced today that they're going to open inside dining at the end of September. So the whole state, well, the New York City area, I should say, hasn't opened indoor dining yet. So my point is, on September 14th, I would like to encourage you, despite the fact that you may get a lot of pushback from the bar owners, to keep these restrictions in place. Another one of their points was that bars are controlled and house parties are not. But I'm someone that lives by College Street, and I see the repercussions of large groups of students going downtown and then coming home completely drunk. And when they're drunk, their inhibitions are gone. They're not wearing masks. They're all near one another. We've seen what's happened in other states in the bars when they're overcrowded. And I think the reason that our numbers are still low is that we've been taking a lot of proactive stances. And I would just really hope that the city council would continue these emergency measures, because I don't think there's been enough time for us to really see their positive effects. Thank you.
Thank you, Maddie. Now, again, if you'd like to speak during Speak Out, please raise your hand.
So it's Louis Siegel. I unmuted him. He has his hand up.
Okay.
Yeah, first off, I didn't understand why I wasn't on the list when Hannah went through saying hello to people. Anyway, that's just a technical matter. More substantively, I was wondering whether it is discouraged or encouraged for people, for snowbirds to propose their candidacy for a position on the NPA.
Yeah, Jonathan, you can. All you.
If I can just make, and this is my opinion, it's, everybody gets to decide, especially in this remote world. It seems kind of like a mood issue. We're going to shake hands in person in January the same way we're going to shake hands whether you're in Florida or whether you're here. I think that the only thing is that it's a year. Excuse me, motorcycles. It's a year-round commitment. So somehow or other, we would hope that anybody who wants to be on the steering committee would plan to do it year-round. That doesn't mean they have to be physically present. And that's my opinion. Others can ring in too. That's what I got.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, can you still, it's not going to, the meetings aren't going to be virtual forever, but I guess, is this a year-long appointment?
Yeah, typically the bylaws, Ward 1 doesn't really have bylaws, but bylaws are typically written on April 1st kind of years. So they kind of go with the city council. And probably by then we'll have figured this all out and we'll be back to something a little more normal by next April.
Finally, there was something in the explanation in front porch forum about candidacies, and it referred to some committees. Is the being a member of the steering committee and being a committee member one and the same, or can they be mutually exclusive?
You could be on a committee, you could be on the steering committee, you could be on both.
And the members of the committees are not elected.
It's all outside the steering committee. It's all volunteer.
Okay,
it's all volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, great. So other hands raised. I know Mark and Brian wanted to speak. So it can go. And then
Okay,
Karen,
I'm sorry.
if you want to make
I'll move them both as panelists. Promote to panelists, correct?
you want to make them co-host if they'd like to be on screen. That's going to be the thing for tonight that you're going to have to handle. So that way we can see presentations and see the individuals speaking, because I don't have the ability to do that.
You don't want them to be a panelist?
Well, we do want them to be a panelist, but then you have to go a step further and make them a co-host. So like Jack is a co-host. So that's why he's on the screen.
Okay. So they should be panelists right now?
It just says that I can't start my video, but it looks like I can unmute myself.
Yeah.
Make co-host. Okay. Did it.
Okay. So Mark and Brian, you should be able to speak, like unmute yourself, but also show video if you'd like.
Oh yeah, it looks like I can show my video. It's not doing.
It won't let me show my video.
But mine is useless because I feel like I'm sitting in the dark. But that's okay. It's useless. So first of all, I want to say that Brian and I are going to present together. I'm just going to take a couple minutes. Brian's going to take a couple minutes. Let me use the first part of my couple minutes to say to Cindy and Carol and Karen and Linda and Hannah and Tom. I don't know who else I'm missing. And obviously, I want to shout out to Zariah and Jack. Just say hey and thank you so much for allowing us to stop in and give you some updates on what's happening with Operation Phoenix Rise, and that's this initiative that the Racial Justice Alliance started back in somewhere around June timeframe. I'm the coordinator of Racial Justice Alliance. Brian is on the steering committee. The Operation Phoenix, that mission was to transform the lives of Black and Brown people by investing in their lives, holding space for their culture, providing them with opportunity, and ensuring equity that they deserve to thrive. What it consists of is restructuring public safety, implementing cultural empowerment, securing equal opportunity, and expanding the racial equity, inclusion, and belonging. I just want to provide some very brief updates on kind of some of the work that's been going on. I just got off the call with a group of folks, and we're going to be doing this on a regular basis. Hey, Jane. So did want to just update you on, yes, there has been a 30% reduction in uniformed officer head count. Right now, there's a joint committee that's in place of the commission, police commission, as well as public safety. There's an RFP out for community engagement. There's also an RFP that's going to be going out, and I think Zariah will probably tell you more about it later, but there's an RFP for the police assessment and analysis. And I also wanted to make you aware that there's a strategic plan RFP that's going out, a person that's going to be managing, all of the activities on the city side of Operation Phoenix, and there's going to also be a feasibility study that informs. So there'll be another RFP going out to take a look at, what this Cultural Empowerment Center looks like. It's important to understand that there's been an approval for two additional positions in the Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Office. That those announcements closed out on Friday. I think there was over 50 applicants for that. And there's also some organizational training and an organizational assessment, that will be happening out of that office. So I just want to encourage everyone to kind of stay dialed in. We'll keep updating folks, and I've asked for an opportunity to potentially be on the agenda next month, where I could give you a more robust, feedback on what is actually happening. But I'll just leave it there for now. I do know that. I should just add to that the it is important to understand that there has been a declaration declaring racism as a public health emergency, as well as a task force, which has been announced to study the contribution of Burlington to chattel slavery and consider an apology, as well as some type of reparations proposal if appropriate. So that's what's happening now. I think the mayor right now is also working to transition a position into what he's calling a equity health director, which is going to be, in Brian Lowe's office and dotted line to the public health commissioner, as well as Taisha's office. So yeah, with that, I think those are like the really high level. It's really fast moving, but I just wanted to let you know what's going on. And the reason why I brought Brian in is I wanted to give Brian an opportunity to talk more about some of the activity that's happening. We did ask for the removal of those officers, and I think Brian's down on the ground over near where the protesters are.
Yeah, so I'm down here on Church Street, and I've been coming down here to listen to what these young people are saying, to try to understand why they're so angry. And what we hear repeatedly in their message is that they're demanding accountability from the adults who say that they want to protect them, but continue to allow policy for law enforcement that lets law enforcement abuse people, especially younger people and people of color, poor people, people with disabilities. And so you're seeing a multiracial young movement here that doesn't look like it's going to let up unless the adults listen to them. And so what I'm hearing is that they're demanding police accountability. They're demanding that we fire the 3 officers. And if this city had followed some of the policies that people have been fighting for the last 6 years, we wouldn't be in this position. We wouldn't have these officers on our police force right now. So the time has come where it's important that we listen to these youth and we look at what's happening and we implement some policies to improve accountability of law enforcement. And so the Racial Justice Alliance has introduced some bills. Some pieces of those bills have been being considered in laws that just passed and in laws that we're looking at passing in the next few weeks. So hopefully on the state level, we'll be seeing some greater civilian oversight of police, some improvements in use of force, in the training of the police, and a variety of other areas. Hopefully we can make more progress on the city level as well and end the protests, show the young people that the adults are listening to them, and that when we say that racism is a public health emergency, that we mean it. So thank you. And you can see here just like the scene of people rolling in front of City Hall. I'm going to try to stay out of the middle of the crowd here, but thanks everyone for giving us some time to give an update on our work. And if people want to look at some of the specifics, it's on our Racial Justice Alliance website.
Great. Thank you so much, Brian and Mark. Now I think the last hand that is raised is Bill. So you should be able to speak now.
This is not Bill. This is Ann Brenya. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Bill Church.
Yeah. I'm Ann Brenya. I live in Ward 8. I live with Bill Church, and I think I speak for him. I know this is not going to be a popular opinion, but I just want to express my opposition and dismay at certain city councilors of this NPA who have promoted protests in front of the mayor's house. You may not agree with the mayor on many issues, but his family doesn't deserve this kind of harassment. It's unprofessional of our government leaders who should be fostering a working relationship with the mayor. I feel that this is not who we are in Burlington. That's the end.
Great, thank you, Anne. So if nobody else has their hand raised for speak out, then I'm just going to continue on through the agenda. So next we have the city council updates. So Zariah, Jack, Jane, whatever order you'd like to do it in, go for it.
And they are all co-hosts.
Yeah, so you can put your cameras on unmute.
Who wants to kick us off?
I have a fresh thought brought up by. So if you don't mind, I'll just start off. So to Maddie Posig's point, thanks for being here tonight, by the way. So I fully intend on keeping the emergency measures in place for the COVID safety and for like downtown bars. I think that's a goal that a lot of us feel that should be extended. And I don't think that at any point in this month should we be assessing and then kind of backtracking at all. I think we should kind of keep our strong regulations in place because we are seeing a good effect that they're having. And I don't think that we've reached a point in time where we can be like comfortable with COVID by any means. A multitude of professionals around the globe and science in general projects that as it gets colder out, gatherings will naturally move to the indoors. And that's honestly a prime setting for transmission of the virus. So I think we should be promoting through our media, through all of our interactions, these kind of safety guidelines. So I appreciate that being brought up. In overall reflection of what has taken place since we've last come together as a neighborhood, we've been focusing a lot on BPD and the organizers' demands. So I really appreciate Mark and Brian touching on Racial Justice Alliance demands and reflecting for themselves of what they're seeing and how they're feeling about this. On another front, UVM in general, as we know, it has opened. People are on campus. Numbers of cases are low, and I'm very thankful for that, but I'm certainly not taking that for granted. We still won't know if even Labor Day weekend, this past weekend itself, has caused a spike for a few more days. So I think the whole country is kind of watching. I'm very hopeful, but I know that we do need to be incredibly diligent. I do go for a run some evenings, and while I use that time to exercise and clear my mind, I'm noticing a lot of things, and I'm noticing a lot of students on campus and around campus kind of out and about. Everyone I've seen has been wearing masks or kind of puts one up when somebody's kind of coming close or coming by, and I appreciate that, and I think people are overall having a very good response to the regulations that are in place on campus. I'm also noticing parties kind of die down a little bit. Do correct me if I'm wrong. That does not mean that they are stopped. And I also have noticed that, that they are not 100% gone by any means, but I haven't heard the same multitude of complaints. That's kind of a grand overview, and I'm sure Zariah and Jack will fill you in on the rest. Thanks.
Jane, you want to go, Zariah? Or you want me to?
Yeah, I'm happy to go. I don't have a complete list written out for things. Like Mark said, we now have a joint committee between Public Safety and the Police Commission that's addressing a few things. I'm the chair of that committee, and there is an RFP that's gone out for a community facilitator. I hope and assume I haven't gotten a link to it, but I hope it went out 2 weeks ago. And we're working on a few other things. It sounds like I'm just getting this, but the mayor is also looking for kind of short-term, starting to spend some of the funding from the police leaving on a community. I don't remember what the exact title was, but basically someone who works in the community a little bit more like the social worker that we currently have Lacey does, and does things like facilitate neighborhood conversations. And I shouldn't talk about this until I've actually read his email to be sure, but I think that's something that will be coming out. So I'll send an update about that at the end of this week over Front Porch Forum. I don't even know, there's been so many things happening in terms of that have been very, very distracting. The protests are clearly happening. I am not aware of any of the counselors on this call endorsing a march to the mayor's house. I'm certainly very supportive of the protesters in general and their role in the park. If one of them were to ask me, and not that any of them have, I think if they were to march on the mayor's house, I would at least want it to be announced like they did it last time. I think the first time it happened was a little rough with his family at the house. Not that the protesters are in any way making anyone unsafe or anything like that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I think that's the end of my update. I'm happy to answer any questions about the joint committee. We laid out 3 broad goals. I don't know if I talked about this last time, but it's basically to hear from the community and to kind of have a vision exercise of what the community views public safety to be, then to do the thing that the racial justice resolution called for, which is an assessment. And police department, we kind of prioritize that, although we will be taking a look at an RFP for that this week. And then the third thing is that, sorry, turning my video off because my internet's unstable. And then that third piece is kind of that short term, what does the community need while we're finishing some of those other assessments or the community visioning that we don't want to wait for.
Great. You good, Zara?
I think so, yeah.
Cool. I can round things out. The Progressive Caucus, we put out a statement on Thursday about the protests and needed public safety reforms. I also didn't endorse the march on the mayor's house, so I'm not sure where that was coming from. That definitely wasn't in our statement or anything like that. But the protests in general, I'm super supportive, and our caucus is super supportive. I've spent a lot of time down there at Battery Park. I think this is part of a national and local reckoning with an issue that has just been so grossly deferred in this country and in this community, which is systemic racism. So I really welcome the uprising and the upsurge around finally having this reckoning that I think we're going through as a community and as a country. And I think Soraya outlined a lot of the work that we're doing, and Mark and Brian, and that work really continues. And we had a special meeting last night that we called in direct response to the encampment and the protests. And in that meeting, we accelerated the charter change process, which was part of the original resolution at the end of June. But basically, in order to change how discipline happens and create accountability outside of the police chief, we need a charter change. So we're trying to accelerate that process so that if there are, police misconduct going forward, it's not just solely internal to the department and the police chief who makes the disciplinary decision. I think that's a key reform, and there's other reforms as well we're working on. We had a discussion last night around, specifically the 3 officers that are on video engaging in police brutality, and who kind of one of the core demands of the protests is to terminate those officers. We had a discussion about the possibility of, potentially trying to come to a settlement agreement where those officers would agree to leave the force. It was largely an executive session, and it's obviously a personnel matter, so we can't discuss it publicly, but that is something that we've started to undertake, which I think is really important. At the last meeting prior to that was on August 24th. We had President Garamella in and really pushed him on UVM. I agree with Jane that I feel, I live right on the top of Pearl Street, so I'm kind of right in the heart of both campus and, a lot of student housing. And I do feel like there's been a decrease in parties compared to a month or 2 ago. And I feel like, and I work on campus too, and I work with students, and like the compliance with the masks, I think, is actually far greater than the general population of Burlington. Like I see students wearing masks basically universally, even more so than just Burlingtonians, just in terms of walking around. I know at the parties there've been issues, but in general. But anyways, at the last meeting, we made the final approval for the removal of the mural, which happened. That's kind of been a long saga in the city. The city place issue has been another saga, and we took a pretty big step in that, where we basically authorized the administration we essentially hired a legal team to be prepared to enter into a lawsuit. I haven't heard an update from that meeting from the administration on where things are at. But that was a new and kind of big step, is to retain a legal firm and basically authorize a lawsuit against the property owner. So yeah, those were some things from last meeting. And then, yeah, I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Okay, great. So now we have about 5 minutes left. So if anyone has any questions for any of the counselors, just raise your hand and we'll put you in speaking order. So you can do that now. Not Sophie, so you should be able to speak now.
I just want to thank the counselors. I just really appreciate the new council and how they are trying to lead us towards a better community and a better, yes, in general, a better community. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you, Sophie. Any other questions? You can raise your hand. Yes. Okay. Jonathan, your screen should be good.
Yes. Hi, I'm Angie Chappell-Sokol. I have a question about the disciplining of the 3 officers. And it's about the concept of double jeopardy and whether that legal concept comes into play in this situation. That's one thing. The other thing, that's it. I can't remember the other thing.
I'm happy to take it unless someone else wants to.
Oh, go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, it does come into play, Angie. And we had the city attorney kind of explain and reiterate that last night. It's the chief's decision already, so it's kind of out of our hands in that way. But even the chief, if the chief were to make that decision and fire the officers, they could sue and would probably win because they've already been disciplined for these offenses and there hasn't been new information since then. So it essentially is double jeopardy. But so that's kind of why the conversation has pivoted into a separation agreement, which would only happen if the officers, want to even have that conversation and would come to that agreement and would mutually agree on some sort of a separation. But there's not really a path for like termination because of what you said. And yeah.
And so I think if I can follow up a little bit. Oh, do you want to go ahead and ask a question first?
What you want? Jane, to keep going?
Oh, Jane, you can.
Oh, we said Zariah who's talking? Zariah.
Yeah.
Zariah.
Sorry, I don't have my video on. My internet's just a little, it feels like it's always fine until NPA meetings and then it doesn't want to work. But yeah, so there's definitely the concept of double jeopardy. I don't think firing is a feasible strategy. Like Jack said, I think it's a thing of trying to, come to some kind of severance agreement. And then I think at the same time, I strongly believe that our policing policies are not in line with what the community feels. And so I think one of the things that the council as a whole has been really good about moving forward is a conversation around how do we make sure that that one, this doesn't happen again, but that if it does happen again, that the community feels like it has some means of restorative justice or alternative forms of justice.
Thank you both for answering that question. My other question was about the police commission, in that seems to have very little to do with the actual policy and running of the department or I don't know how much input the commission has, but that is the public's opportunity to have a voice and the public should have a voice. And so I'm hoping that one of the things you may be doing that you're referring to is to see a means of strengthening that commission or finding other avenues to enable more public input that actually has weight, not just that we say stuff, but that we mean it and it can be enacted if many people agree. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And to add to that for just a second, I think that one of the kind of strong silver linings of these protests is a lot of that does require things like charter changes. And so to give the public appetite for that kind of change or that big of a change and to also get it through at the state level is, I think, one of the kind of fortunate moments of this national reckoning.
Okay, great. I don't see any other hands raised, so we're going to move on to the next part of the agenda. It was supposed to be the school board update, but neither of our school board members are on the call yet, so we're just going to skip forward to the next thing and we can revisit that. So now we're going to do steering committee elections. So yes, Jonathan's going to help me out with this. If you want to be on steering committee for either wards 1 or 8, please raise your hand, or we're going to take nominations from the floor. And then Jonathan, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, hi. I guess all I really want to say is this is going to be a little messy because we've never done this sort of thing before. Usually, as when Lewis asked the question, usually this is an annual event that happens in April. And because of all the upheaval, it didn't happen. We decided it was time to do it, and we decided it was time to do it because somebody actually expressed interest in joining the steering committee. So we thought we could do it now because then we can kind of move on, and by next spring, maybe this will all be a lot easier to take care of. So I think one of the things we have to do is we have to divide the House in the sense that we have to have a Ward 8 vote and a Ward 1 vote. And what I would propose is if there are multiple nominations. So let me just very quickly say that being on a steering committee is, it's an honor, but it's also a lot of work. And having done it for just a year, I see that the more the merrier. So I would definitely urge people to nominate themselves or be nominated by somebody to do this, because it's a great experience. You get a lot of connection with the community, and I honestly don't see a downside. So with that, do we want to start with one or the other, Hannah?
Yeah, so the way that we are going to be running this is, as Jonathan mentioned, we'll do either nominations from yourself or from the floor. And then the way that we will vote is when we do Ward 1, you'll just use your little hand raise function when I say all those in favor of electing the names to the steering committee, and the same thing will go for Ward 8. And then, you'll just use your little hand raise function. So if you're in Ward 1, only vote in the Ward 1 section. If you're in Ward 8, only vote in Ward 8. And so, I think that's how we'll do it. Jonathan, do we want to start with Ward 1 or 8?
Let's start with Ward 8 because it's smaller and maybe it's easier.
Okay.
And you want me to facilitate that?
Yeah, sure. I think
okay. So I think what I would ask first is that could everybody from Ward 8 just raise their hands so we can have a hand count on Ward 8?
It's not letting me raise my hand, but I live in.
Okay, so that's a problem, is that there are, if you're a co-host, you can't raise your hand, but just raise your physical hand. I saw 3 people among the attendees, is that right? And 2 people whose faces are on camera.
3.
Is there anybody else? Okay, so that's five people. So I think you got to get 3 people to vote for you in order to be on the steering committee. And we can take nominations. I know Hannah has expressed interest in continuing. Are there nominations from the floor?
I'm going to nominate myself for the Ward 8 steering committee.
Okay, if other people want to nominate, who can either raise their hand or raise. Okay, thank you. So Hannah's been nominated and seconded. Are there other nominees? You just raise your hand if you want to nominate somebody or nominate yourself. Okay, I do not see anybody. So this is easy. All those in Ward 8 who are in favor of having Hannah on the steering committee, raise your hand. So I see no attendees raising their hand right now.
I don't see an option to raise my hand, but I would be in favor of that.
Yeah, the raising hand option is gone, but I am in favor as well.
There's 3 people raising their hands on the screen, no?
Yeah.
Yep. So can we just, so I think that's it. I think we're done with that. But we should try to figure out why people can't raise their hands.
Let's see. Karen, you may need to facilitate this as well, because I don't think I'm going to have the function. So Skylar, I'm going to use you as the experiment person.
That's good.
So I'm going to promote you to a panelist. Now try to raise your hand. Once he's back.
No, I don't think you can.
I'm back.
Does it give you the option to raise your hand?
No, it's just showing me the start video, and then I can now see everybody that's in the chat, but I'm not seeing the option to raise my hand though.
Hannah, can you
click on participant?
Everybody who's a panelist to a non-panelist, so everybody can raise.
Yeah, no, I'm clicking on the participant, and it's I can see all the. Oh, raise my hand. Here we go.
In the lower right-hand corner.
There it is.
Okay.
I have. Yep. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So I guess that means we'll have to make everyone a panelist. Sorry, this is like a different Zoom function that we've been using, so I didn't really expect this to be happening.
Hannah, I think folks can raise their hands without being. All you got to do is push the participants button and then look in their lower right-hand corner. I don't think you need to promote everybody.
I couldn't see a list of the participants until I was promoted. I could initially raise my hand to say that I was in Ward 8, but then once I raised it, the option went away until I was a panelist.
Okay, sorry for the bad information.
Yeah,
Thank you.
There's something amiss about this.
Oh, raise hand just came out.
Okay.
Yeah, for the panelists, you can say you can allow attendees to raise hands. So I just did that randomly. So if anyone is able to, that might be why.
Yeah, like Sophie just raised her hand. So I think what we're going to do is we'll just continue on to Ward 1, and we'll know if a majority of people vote yes, and we'll be able to see who can raise their hand. And if you don't have the function, we'll just go one by one, and you can say it out loud. Is that good with everyone? Does everyone feel comfortable with that? Okay. Yes. So now the Ward 1 steering committee election. So we'll take nominations from the floor. So either raise your hand or indicate in some way. Karen, yes. You're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. How did I get muted?
I just unmuted you, so you're good now.
Okay. I'd like to nominate Tom Derenthal for Ward 8. Ward 1.
I'll second that.
Okay, and then Carol, your hand is raised.
I'd like to nominate Jonathan Chapel Sokol for Ward 1.
I second that.
Okay. Anyone else? I see Bob has his hand raised.
Yep, it keeps going in and out, but my hand is raised.
Okay, are you raising your hand to try to join the Ward 1 steering committee?
No.
Okay. Any other hands? Jonathan.
Jean Hopkins.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, Jonathan. Yeah, I'll support Jonathan and Karen Long. And can Cindy stay on? And Carol, want you all on there.
So I nominated Tom Darenthal. I am not going to do it again.
Oh.
Right now. I'll be back some other time, but not now. Thank you, Jean. I appreciate that.
And I'll second Carol and Cindy, but you want to do it?
I think I need a break.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that's everyone. I think it makes the most amount of sense if everyone is comfortable with it to do a slate election. So we'll just vote for everyone, or you can vote against everyone. Is that cool with everyone? Just a show of thumbs up if from what, okay. So then, yeah, I guess all those in favor of electing, and if I get it wrong, tell me, Jonathan, Carol, Tom, who else am I missing? Did Bob want to be on? Did I miss that?
He said no.
I do.
Oh, he does?
No, I don't want to be on it. I just want to vote.
Okay. Okay.
I just want to
But
vote.
you're on.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yes. So all those in favor of electing Jonathan, Carol, and Tom to the Ward 1 steering committee, please raise your hand. Okay, I see hands coming in. Okay. And if you're unable to raise your hand, just unmute yourself. And that's also great. Okay.
I think the people that didn't raise their hand are Gail Champnoy, Joe Spidell, they're not Ward 1. Lisa Kingsbury is not Ward 1. Maddie is not. Lewis is not. So I think we're good. Sandy is not. I think we have more.
Amazing. You're elected.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, everyone. Okay, Carol, yes, are you?
Hi, yeah, I'd like to speak just for a few minutes about our three folks who have chosen to move off the steering committee, and to give them a brief tribute. Cindy Cook grew up in Burlington, went to school in Burlington, joined the NPA early on in its time after Richard Hilliard helped start it. Cindy brought us all into the steering committee. She has valued the importance of community building and local decision-making, and has seen the NPA as a key force. And I think urges all of us to continue having it be that kind of force in our neighborhood. Karen Long has lived in Burlington for over 20 years and raised her children here. She is a doggedly active Burlington citizen who attends city meetings and advocates for neighborhoods. Her experience and history enriched our work on the steering committee. And Linda Risby also raised her kids in Burlington in Ward 8. She served as a school board commissioner as well. She has kept us guided by the principles of open meetings and has minded the details for our decision making. We thank Cindy, Karen, and Linda so very much for their leadership and their commitment. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you. I will say I've been here 42 years. I'm really old.
Oh my.
Not only 20, but thank you for that. Okay.
Okay, great.
Mark Chambers has his hand raised. Mark, would you like to speak, or were you voting?
I did not raise my hand.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, wait a minute. There we go. I've just lowered it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so unless anyone has anything else to say, I think we'll transition on. The school board members are still not here. So
Yeah. I sent a text and left a phone message to Kathy Olwell. I'm
I
not
see
sure.
Carol has her hand raised.
So I offered, because I'm an employee of Burlington School District, I actually am a paraeducator at Flynn. And I sort of pushed this agenda on Kathy and Auden. And because I thought it was important to hear from the commissioners about the first day, which was yesterday. Today was a remote day, but yesterday, as far as I know, went well. There are lots and lots of systems that have to be put in place. If you can imagine, from 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, all the way up to 12th graders, 17 and 18-year-olds, all getting the questions asked of them every morning that we've all had to ask when we go into a building, have their temperatures taken, keep 6 feet distant, wear masks, and oh, by the way, try to learn something. I think everyone was really excited to be back at school. And really want this to work. And if you want more details, there's certainly lots that Kathy and Auden can share, and I would be glad to answer questions about. People are concerned. They are scared and worried and having to make the decision about to work or leave their job. But many people have made the choice to stay. And I know Tom Flanagan, our new superintendent, has the optimistic hope that we'll be in school in person, all of us, in October. So hopefully that's what we can look forward to. Just as a fellow taxpayer to my other taxpayers in the meeting, we have folks who are working really, really hard and doing a really good job. So I just want you to be aware of your tax money well spent and your support for your teachers and your staff members at the schools and your children. Really makes a big difference to everybody who is there. So thank you so much for your support. And we're doing the best we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Sorry I'm late. This is Adam Haji.
Hi, Adam.
Commissioner. Carol just basically said it in a nutshell about the reopening. And I just wanted to conclude with saying that, especially for the board, I think it's important to make sure, all families are getting the right information and that students, staff, and custodian workers and all other stakeholders' safety is at the core for this year. And if there are any questions regarding any other aspects of the reopening, I'm more than willing to have a one-on-one chat if anyone wants to discuss more, as well as if I can't answer any questions, then I'll be more than willing to bring on another stakeholder in the district that may have the answers. So as we all know, these are difficult times, and difficult times come with great responsibility for all of us to really come together and work as one. So I really want this to be a collective effort as we move forward. So if there's any questions or concerns, please let us know. We're here to listen.
Great, thank you. So now I think if there's any questions for Carol or Auden, please raise your hand and we'll get you in speaking order. Not seeing any hands raised thus far. Last call for questions. Okay, so then we'll just continue on. So next we are going to hear a COVID update and discussion from a couple different stakeholders. So if we want to promote Wendy, or actually Annie Stevens, Sandy, Kerry, the mayor, and Officer Lawson, if they're on. So you'll need to do the co-host thing so they can show.
Okay.
Yes.
Carrie Sleeper, did you say?
Yes. They may not all be on because we're running a few minutes.
Mary should be on.
So Annie is now a co-host.
Okay. So that means you can turn your cameras on if you'd like.
Carrie is the co-host. I'm sorry that this is taking. We're not doing Joe Spidell. Did you say?
Sandy, I don't believe the mayor is with us yet, or.
And I don't see Sandy either. Oh, wait, yes, I do. Sorry. Way at the top. It's crazy.
This is Annie. I would turn my camera on if I could figure out how.
I think at the bottom of your screen, it should give you the option to mute or turn on camera. But also, Karen, you can go in and where there's the 3 little dots, you can request her to turn on her video as well. Sorry, everyone. We're just trying to.
Yeah.
The text stuff.
Spotlight video.
The recording was just paused. Should we resume it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Gary Sleeper.
Okay. And then I guess we'll just hold out for the mayor and just kidding. It's here.
Okay, I'll add him.
Quite active. She was quite active when we had the warming shelter. She's in that neighborhood. She's in her neighborhood.
So yeah, you'll just need to make the mayor a co-host as well.
Okay.
That will allow you to turn on your camera.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. Yeah, and then Officer Lawson's still not on, but I think if you all would like to begin, I'll keep an eye out for them to join, and then we'll assess that now. But everyone should be able to turn their videos on and unmute themselves if they're ready and if they feel comfortable. So yeah, if you want to start.
No, they're talking. These people are talking about COVID-19.
Mayor Weinberger, would you like to go first? And
Sure, I'd be happy to. Great.
Andy and I can go.
Sounds good. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having this part of the NPA. Thank you for continuing to keep this institution going through all this. I enjoy seeing your lawn signs out there popping up to announce the NPA is coming. It's good to be back with you again, talking about where we are in our coronavirus efforts and efforts to contain, box in the virus. I think I know in our past discussions, everyone aware we're in the middle of a key month in this effort. I'd say probably the most important month since the reopening began, where we are taking on these big challenges and big up, high value reopenings of our colleges and our public schools. From my perspective, we have exactly the conditions that we wanted to have when this reopening began. I think in the past, I may have brought up the COVID Act Now website. It is, I find, kind of the gold standard and following kind of day to day. What is the state of the virus nationally? We've been green a lot of the time since reopening. We've gone yellow briefly at times. This week we went back to green to start the week, and right now I believe, at least yesterday, I don't know if I had a chance to check it today, but we are the only state in the country that has that green threshold, which fundamentally means there's very low amounts of the virus currently circulating, which is which is, really the condition you need. One of the two conditions you need to have successful reopenings of the colleges and the public schools. The others is you need the right precautions in place, and you need those institutions to be operating with an acknowledgement of what's going on here. And we have these great representatives from each of the colleges. Sorry, sorry for any background noise there. My kids, we just finished dinner. So I'll let them to speak to what's going on the college campuses. We had a town meeting event about a week ago with Superintendent Tom Flanagan and Gary, Dr. Razka from the UVM Medical Center. And it was a really, I thought, hopeful and optimistic night where they both went through everything that is happening in the public schools to get ready for the reopening. I dropped off both of our girls yesterday and really saw it in action, and it was really encouraging. I think we the months of preparation mean that we have real good systems in place in those public schools, which makes me very hopeful. Let me just say a couple other notes on what we're doing to keep it this way beyond what you're going to hear specifically from the institutions. The city's embarked on an interesting pilot program that we are hopeful will give us another way of measuring growth of the virus, and really an early warning system for growth of the virus. Since early August, we've been one of, I think, just a handful of cities in the country that has been doing wastewater testing to basically establish a baseline of what are our readings look like now when we know there's very low levels of virus circulating. Having done that, we think we're in good position to do some ongoing testing that will give us an early sense if virus levels are starting to rise. The interesting thing about this technology is that, the more surgical you can be, the more precise you can be about where you take wastewater tests, the more effective interventions can be. There's a couple of weeks ago, the University of Arizona kind of snuffed out an outbreak in a dormitory before it even got going by testing just that specific dorm. But of course, you try to be that surgical. That means a lot of testing, and there's a lot of expense involved. So we're in the process of going from this pilot program here to an ongoing posture for the coming months, and we'll have. I can get into that more if people have questions about it, but we'll have announcements about it in the days to come. And then finally, I know this NPA was very interested in the local public health restrictions that we put in place as soon as the governor allowed us to, regarding closing bars early and lowering the group size for private establishments to 10 for indoor events and 25 outdoors. Those rules remain in place right now. And having talked with Dr. Levine, my sense is we're going to keep them there until at least the later part of the month. If we get to the end of September and we continue to have these very low levels of virus transmission, I think that would be the time to think about some loosening. But we're really, even though the early indications are that the reopening of the colleges is going well, and there's been relatively very few positive tests for the thousands and thousands of tests that have taken place, we think it's too early to know that this transition has succeeded. So we're going to keep those in place. My sense is we should keep those in place a bit longer. Ultimately, it is a council decision, but I think that's where Councilor Hansen's on the line. We haven't had a direct talk about it, but I suspect there will be consensus around keeping these in place a bit longer. I'll stop there, and happy to answer questions or just get out of the way for the institutions to speak.
Yes, anyone else who wants to get in on the conversation? And then Lieutenant Lawson, you should be able to turn on your camera and unmute yourself now as well, because you're promoted as a co-host if you'd like.
Sandy, do you want to go and then I'll chime in?
Sure, that sounds great. And Carrie's going to kick us off. Carrie Sleeper.
Oh, okay, great.
Hi, good evening, everyone. And on behalf of President Akande, thank you for inviting Champlain College to this important discussion. I serve as a special assistant to the president in assisting the college reopening. Immediately prior to coming to Champlain College, I was serving as the interim deputy secretary at the Agency of Human Services. I had been brought in to assist with the crisis planning at the beginning stages of the COVID crisis, assisting with surge planning, testing planning, isolation, medical capacity surge, things like that. The key message that President Akande communicated to me is that he would not open the college unless it could be done in a safe, healthy, and responsible way. And his focus first was on the community, recognizing the Champlain Campus College, which I am a graduate of a couple of times in the late 70s and then again in the 90s. A resident of Burlington at some in my earlier life, still family in Burlington, still in the Hill section, that we needed to recognize that our campus is within a community in the city of Burlington. So that was our focus on doing it safely. We, like UVM, leveraged every available resource to ensure we did this properly. Certainly starting with national CDC guidance, with state guidance, the Open Smart, Open Healthy guidance that the state developed. Also, Johns Hopkins Open Smart EDU guidance, which was developed by Johns Hopkins University to assist institutes of higher education in opening. We applied all of that to our opening. A couple of decisions that President Akande made in ensuring that we could do this. Number one, a key piece is testing. We determined from the beginning that testing capacity and sustaining testing was going to be critical in ensuring that we were managing the campus properly. And I'm pleased to say that as of today, we've conducted over 3,000 tests of students and faculty. And that's something that we're requiring, not only the students, but faculty and staff. We're all part of a community at Champlain, and we made that determination. We've had one positive test so far. That was over 7 days ago. So we measure these in 7-day increments so we can determine what it looks like in the viral impact and travel. That one positive was a day 7 test coming in from out of state. What I believe we have been able to answer in a question that was impacting colleges and universities across the country is, can you bring in a large number of people from different locations, bring them onto a college campus and either isolate or minimize the number of cases coming in? At this case, we're not about to consider it a success. We're simply saying that the processes that we're employing are working, the one positive. That positive has been contact traced. It appears to be from the home state where the individual came from. We've identified no other students on campus. We believe it has been effectively isolated at this point. That student is asymptomatic and has been residing for over a week in isolation housing on the Champlain Campus College. And that aspect is going very, very smoothly. That is taking care of the physical and emotional needs of the student in going quite effectively. The other key tool that I know you've heard quite a bit about locally and across the country, in addition to all those tools that have been mentioned before in this call, the masking, the social distancing, the hygiene, the cleaning that's necessary, to bind that all together is the health pledge. And our students were required to sign a health pledge. They were required to indicate that they would take a weekly test that they would support isolation housing when necessary, quarantine conditions when necessary, masking, all of those conditions. This I view is really the glue that holds all of this process together. The mayor mentioned earlier, and I want to commend the mayor, the city of Burlington, the city council in assisting us in opening these schools effectively. That is the limiting of group size and the limiting of consumption of alcohol in bars. Those are the two factors that I believe can undermine all of the efforts, all the time, all the money that's been spent to do this properly. We can manage the campuses and these processes, and we've been able to demonstrate we can do that. But the long-term success of this will be, quite honestly, of how we manage the student behavior in the sense of those that might not or would not subscribe to the health pledge. It's so critical, and I want to make sure that as time goes along, we don't become complacent and say we've had one positive or no positives, and then allow large groups to begin forming again, people getting together without masking, because as we've seen across the country, that's really the unfortunate makeup that's allowed this spread. And again, our focus is on the health of the campus, the health of the community and the campus around us. One thing we do also, I want you to be cognizant of, is every morning at 8 a.m., the president joins myself and the cabinet in a situation report. We report the number of tests that were conducted the prior day. We discuss any health pledge violations, any other issues that may be relevant. How's PPE supplies doing? How are our cleaning supplies holding out? I'm pleased to report that all of those things that were identified early on as potential challenges to reopening institution, we've been able to meet and or overcome. Great support by the students, great support by their families, moving in without parents assisting them. They all demonstrated a remarkable understanding. Great support by the faculty and staff, and also great support by the community. We heard a lot of positive feedback as I've walked around the campus on people who are walking their dogs, walking their children, that type of thing. So with that, I will stop and answer any questions I may be, or excuse me, Sandy, I'm to turn it over to you. Did I miss anything, Sandy, that you wanted me to bring up?
Thanks, Carrie. Yeah, I just wanted to add a couple of additional specifics based on some of the questions that we heard in advance of the meeting from neighbors. So I have been sharing updates with our neighbors on Front Porch Forum, which at Champlain reaches 5 of our surrounding neighborhoods. It does not include wards 1 and 8, but we have all of our COVID-related updates on our website, including daily testing results, all of the campus communications that we've had, and FAQs, including some specific to neighbors. And then I'm the direct contact for neighbors, so I've really encouraged neighbors to contact me with their questions and concerns. We've had some neighbors ask questions about how to contact us if they experience issues. So for neighbors who witness a Champlain student behaving in a way that puts themselves or puts someone else at risk, there are a number of options. So for real-time responses, especially after hours, we are recommending contacting the BPD. And if it's a Champlain student specifically, we want to make sure we know about it as well so that we can take action. Neighbors can also contact our campus public safety team 24/7 or email me at community@champlain.edu. And we've also activated a form for neighbors on our website to be able to submit concerns anonymously. But know that the more information that you can provide, the more effectively we can address issues that arise. So we've also had questions come up about how we enforce health and safety measures and what happens when issues are reported. So all of our on and off campus students as Carrie said, must comply with our community health pledge. And our community standards team addresses all the reports that come in. And if it's determined that there's a violation, the team evaluates the potential impact of that violation on the health and safety of the community, and then determines appropriate sanctions from there, including potential removal from the college. So sanctions are determined on a case-by-case basis as infractions vary, and they range from a warning for a first violation to more serious violations that result in removal from campus. On the enforcement side, we do have a comprehensive messaging, signage, and social media campaign called Let Us Care that emphasizes health and safety education and compliance. And we've been really encouraged by what we've experienced so far in terms of students following our protocols. And I was encouraged to hear Jane say that she's seeing students wearing masks, and we are encouraged by that and hope that that behavior continues. So at this point, I'll pass the mic to the next panelist, and we're here for any questions when it's time.
So maybe I'll jump in. My name is Annie Stevens. I'm the Vice Provost for Student Affairs at the University of Vermont. I've been at UVM for 24 years. I think I've joined this Ward 1-8 group a couple of times as we were, especially during construction projects, but it's a pleasure to be here again. I'm not going to take up much time. I think the mayor, Carrie, and Sandy have done a nice job of outlining what UVM is also seeing in terms of successful strategies. I too agree that it really is actually because of the city and the state and how well we have done that allows our colleges to come back and bring our students back. I think probably for us, one of the main strategies has been our pre-arrival testing. So that means of all the students who wish to return, they had to take a pre-arrival test, which helped us kind of triage, if you will, who was coming into the state and into the city. So I believe that really helped. We already have received 10,000 tests of our students, and only 8 of those were positive and were asked to stay home until they recovered and were no longer infectious. But much of the same work has been done at UVM that Carrie and Sandy just worked out in terms of our testing strategy. We have a green and gold pledge that students signed. We've got quarantining and isolation, contact tracing, all of the same strategies that I think are working quite well. Our testing is showing remarkable results in terms of very low numbers to date of positive cases. And when we do, we handle those really quickly and very well. And in the same token, it is also very, very clear direction from President Garamella that if students do violate our green and gold pledge and their promise, and again, sanctions vary, but we will be swift about conduct sanctions and holding students accountable. And we have to date already had 1 suspension due to a party off campus. And I think that, not that we're out to do this, but certainly sends a clear message to students. And I agree that, limiting bar hours, as well as all the things that the city has been doing to help, certainly helps the university and the colleges in the area. So I don't want to spend too much time. I want to make sure we leave it open to the questions and answers. If neighbors ever have a concern, we do have a form on our Office of Student and Community Relations website that neighbors can fill out, and that will go to that website, get triaged, and either be handled as an outreach to a landlord or the actual tenants of the house, perhaps if we only have an address. Or if we have more specific information, it'll be handled formally through our conduct process. And we're on top of those things. So right now we're in a process of just making sure our systems are all clear. Our data is well-tuned and staying on top of it. And I'll end there and open it up to questions.
Yeah, do any of the panelists have anything else to say before I start taking questions?
Did you want Lieutenant Lawson?
Yeah, I was just waiting to see if they were going to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm having some troubles getting the video up. So basically our efforts have been what they have been since the start of this. We continually are working with the universities and with regard to our off-campus action groups. We're actively engaged with Gail Shepnoy's office and working with Joe Spidell continuously regarding efforts to address not only issues around COVID, but other quality of life concerns that we continually have faced over my 20 years. Looking at what we've had regarding behaviors, we have seen this typical surge of calls at this time of year as the university and colleges come back into play. However, we're still trending much lower than we have been in the past, which is a testament to the efforts that we've had between the police department and the University of Vermont, particular to quality of life concerns in the Hill section and in your wards. I know the city's teams are continuously working hard to get quick responses to calls and concerns. If there's anything I could continue to articulate, and I have throughout some other NPAs and throughout my time here, is that we really rely on the community to report to us when they're seeing violations, and to obviously report to us if they have any concerns over their safety or the safeties of their neighbors with things they're seeing. But again, more importantly, being able to meet with us at the time those incidents are occurring, so we can get an accurate account of the situation at hand. It's very difficult for our officers to do any type of enforcement or action at all if we are going to calls where we're not witnessing behavior personally. So one of the things we've been working on is how to do that outreach after the fact by using our community affairs officer for next day follow-up. So we hope to have some efforts in there. But particular to this panel and this conversation tonight, I know number of issuances for tickets are very important to a lot of people, and particular to the CER violations of the governor's executive order. We have issued one ticket in my since the beginning of this push for enforcement. So that is where we're at. And again, a lot of the things that we've mentioned earlier we've been part of. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions that I can for you.
Great, thank you. So now I think we're just going to open it up to questions. So anyone can raise their hand and I'll put you on the speaking order. And if it doesn't let you raise your hand, or if you don't know how to do it, just unmute yourself. Sophie has their hand raised, so you should be all set to speak now.
What is the UVM plan when students do get COVID? I see that nationally, a lot of the universities don't have plans. It sounds like Champlain is. What is UVM's plan?
Sure. If a student tests positive, they're immediately, if they're on campus, then they're immediately brought to one of our designated isolation and quarantine spaces that we have set aside. And then we have full-time staff who monitor their health and actually live in the hall with the students, and we check on the students daily. If they live off campus, we do the same thing. We just don't live with them, but we contact them daily, remind them of their quarantine expectations, check on their symptoms, and continue to support them even if they're off campus. We have about 250 beds for isolation and quarantine. Hopefully we won't need that many.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions? Karen, yes.
Thank you. I have a question. Annie Stevens said that there were 8 students that didn't come on campus because they had tested positive. But since kids have been back on campus, what has the number been for testing for the last couple weeks?
Sure. In the first, we do weekly release of our testing. And so between the week of 8/27, so August 27th and September 2nd, we had 10 positive results out of 11,000 tests. Total cumulative since August 7th, because we had students already arrive, RAs arrived, some athletes arrived as early as August 7th, 12 positive out of 13,000 tests. And then that, of course, this next week and the week we're in, the week we're in, we'll get test results back and release those. We release them every Thursday, late afternoon, Friday morning. But I'm hearing from our medical staff that the tests still are low, very low numbers of testing. We've done a lot of 33 students quarantined because of exposure or symptoms, but those have already gone back down to about 10 that are currently in our isolation quarantine space. But our numbers continue to stay low, and hopefully will stay that way. We're keeping a close eye on it because of Labor Day weekend. The mayor is right in what he said earlier. These next couple of weeks will certainly be the ones to watch to make sure that we are still staying on top of it.
Great, thank you. That's really good. I do see outdoor parties quite a lot. And I didn't know what the number, off-campus students, I know it's much harder to watch that. What is the number that's allowed? Maybe Lieutenant Lawson or the mayor, but they're not wearing masks. It's really, I do see people out walking with masks, but when they're in the backs or in the driveways, they are not. And beer pong seems to be really much more prominent this year. I don't know if you know that party. They have like these long tables set up permanently, red cups. And so that's the part that I think will get into trouble if that continues.
Yeah, I don't know if Lieutenant Lawson wants to answer that. I believe for a resident, it's 25 outside and 10 indoors are the limit numbers. So you can have up to 25 in your backyard outdoors and 10 inside. Certainly we would want to know if there's some kind of, especially if there's quality of life disruption happening because of those gatherings or any other activity that is certainly against city ordinances or laws of Vermont. Those are all things that can be reported on the form that is on the Office of Student Community Relations website. The more specific information we have, the more formal conduct process that we can apply. But certainly, even if we just have an address and there's some issues that need to be addressed, then Gail's office will certainly reach out to the tenants as well as the landlord to work with them about education and follow up about what needs to happen.
Great, thank you.
And
yeah, I'm sorry, just to follow up with what Annie said. Yeah, she's correct. We were very fortunate to be able to be more proactive on the gathering sizes in Burlington, which as a resident in Chittenden County, I appreciate that added security. It is 10 within your residence and 25 in the exterior. That doesn't mean you can have 25 outdoors and 10 indoors. That's 25 total on the property, but outside. And again, what we're seeing is when we're hearing about the parties, we're hearing them through the quality of life complaints normally. And when we have an opportunity to address those, we obviously want to address them as fast as possible, but obviously when we have to prioritize calls in the emergency center, they do on occasion take a back seat to some higher priority incidents that other officers have to respond to. But when we do have those chances, again, the important piece is being able to have a caller who is willing to meet with us, as our officers can't do any proactive enforcement if that is deemed necessary at that point to those behaviors unless they're witnessing them personally. So that's the big push. We want to make sure people feel comfortable to report those things to us and meet with us at the time. I completely understand a call being made at 1 a.m, 2 a.m, regarding these type of complaints. People want to get back to bed as soon as possible. We get that. That's why we're trying to work on the follow-up end on the next day when we can't have those face-to-faces in the early hours. But like the universities and colleges have made it clear, they are willing to listen to any of the complaints coming in. They've been very proactive in establishing resources online through the telephone to make those complaints as well if you're not comfortable reporting it to the police. But yeah, we will enforce what we can and what we see and what we can effectively address at the time.
And then I just have a question kind of for everyone. So I feel like there's like one of the greatest issues with this COVID situation thus far is that there hasn't been a ton of information communicated to the entire like Burlington community as a whole. So I'm just wondering what the city, Champlain, and UVM, like what the outreach measures have been to communicate with not just like 1 in 8 citizens, but then also the rest of Burlington.
Well, generally about the COVID situation you're asking, Anna?
Yeah, because I feel like with updates on the number of tests and stuff like that.
Well, I must say we have never tried to communicate more consistently and more frequently about anything than we have with this. Some of the ongoing resources I would take this opportunity to make sure people are aware of. I'll just share a screen real quick here. This is the site I referenced earlier, the COVID Act Now website, which I really do think is a great resource for following what's going on. There's Vermont glowing green. Literally, if you scroll down here, Vermont is, you view all the states, Vermont is basically doing better than any other state. You can click down and find all sorts of additional information. These are the metrics that they look at, and you can see they're all in the green right now, which varies. Some of them, the daily cases per 100,000 is somewhat variable. That was up in the into the yellow threshold not too long ago. Interestingly, it is some of the massive amounts of college testing has brought it down. The rate right now within the college testing has been about 0.1%. So below that 0.4 per 100, not 0.1%, but 0.1 per 100,000 versus the 0.4 per 100,000, at least as of last week. So that's one of the things that sort of drove us back into the green there. The city webpage really has a lot. I'll bring it up right now. Has a lot of sorry. So I can do to talk and bring up the website at the same time. Has just an enormous amount of resources for almost any part of this the coronavirus effort. Here you can go this dashboard. You can click on this tile here. Just takes a second. It generates the numbers on a whole bunch of metrics. When you go check it out, and you can see. Oh, clicked on the wrong thing, but you'll see today. Do you just want to bring it up, or we're meeting on what is going on here? Did I screw up the? I'm clicking on the resource and recovery center. Here's the COVID-19 impacts. We had 0 new cases today.
Hi, I'm a hacker. I entered your meeting because your id is published in Google and you don't.
And here you can see the 7-day average over the that black line of the 7-day average. We're having a particularly good week right now, which gives me some optimism. You can also, we generally have at least weekly briefings from the mayor's office. We try to follow those up with front porch forum posts to give updates. So, and I know each of the other institutions also have kind of major communication efforts afoot as well. Last thing would just want to make sure people know is still going on is this resource and recovery center. I'm not sure why this is going a little slow right now, but the resource and recovery center is a place to get one-on-one help for any coronavirus or economic recovery effort. Here you see these signs around town. You can click on that tile and there's all sorts of information, whether you're a renter, homeowner, business owner, all these different information tailored for you. And then if you need one-on-one help, you contact the RRC. Something like 1,800 people have, since the pandemic began, have gotten assistance from the city here. So those are some of the ways we're trying to stay really engaged. And we're renewing these efforts now as we head into the fall and think, that the risks may go up in some ways.
Thank you.
And Hannah, for UVM, we've also tried to do a pretty concerted effort of keeping our neighbors in the community well aware of what's going on. We've got a great website as well. It's called, if you can just Google it, UVM Return to Campus. It has our weekly testing results there and any of the information that we have been working on with links. We've done Front Porch Forum. We've got a community coalition. We've done certainly Zoom meetings with different NPAs. We've got city council presentations, neighborhood canvases, door to door, putting up signs, as well as Cats Wear Masks campaign in the local community and areas. So we've done a heck of a lot of outreach, I think, and trying to help people understand what UVM is doing and trying to keep everything pretty transparent on our website and in one solidified place.
Thanks, Annie. And I'll just add from Champlain, I mentioned a few of the ways we're communicating with neighbors. We have a lot of information on our website linked from our homepage and Front Porch Forum as well. You bring up a good question about reaching some of the other wards that we haven't necessarily presented to. We've really focused on Ward 6 and the wards that are closest to us. So that's a good idea. We'll take back. And then I'll also just add that the governor also has focused some of his press conferences on the college status as a whole in Vermont. So that's been another mode of outreach too. And I've been on almost all of the mayor's briefings, and I think he's just doing a terrific job of sharing a lot of information. So thanks.
Thank you. Any last questions before we move forward? So again, you can raise your hand, or if it doesn't allow you to do that, you can just unmute yourself. Okay, I'm not seeing any. So thank you all for that presentation. Yeah.
Great to be with you. Take care, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
So now we're going to go into our final presentation for the night, which is the University Place Street improvements. So Karen, if you want to start promoting people.
We have Philip.
Yes. And then the DPW, I believe, as well. And then if we're missing anyone, please just raise your hand and we'll promote you and then make you co-host. So that way you can turn on your video, share your screen, unmute yourself. All of
Here, but I can't turn on my video quite yet. It says the host has stopped it.
Yeah, so just make a co-host, Karen, if possible.
No, I'm sorry.
I got dressed up and everything.
You should be okay now. There's a lot of extra steps with the way.
Oh, hey, there I am. Excellent. So we would need Greg Goyette from Stantec and Patrick Olsted from SE Group.
Okay. I have the presentation.
There's Patrick. Excellent. Patrick has the presentations with SE Group. So I'll do a very brief introduction. I'm Philip Peterson. I'm an associate engineer with the Department of Public Works, and I'm also the project manager from the city side for the University Place Street Improvements Project. We're working in collaboration with the University of Vermont on this particular project. Back in 2006, the University of Vermont identified University Place as a key street for them to do some major renovations to. And so I'm going to just turn it over to our consultants who have, because we want to get these designs in front of you. We also have a website that I shared with Carol Livingston that she will share with all of you, and there will be links at the end. Patrick with SE Group and Greg Goyette with Stantec will give the presentation.
So Greg and Patrick, you both should be able to share your screen now as well.
Okay. Patrick, would you like me to share my screen?
I can do it.
Okay. And I am not allowed to start my video either. It just says the host has stopped me from doing that.
So Karen will make you a co-host now.
Co-host. No, I have him as a co-host.
Oh, that might have worked. I think we're good. All right. Hello, everybody, and thank you for the introduction, Philip. My name is Greg Goyette. I'm with Stantec Consulting, and we're out of South Burlington, Vermont. I'm a practicing transportation engineer. I've been doing so for 20 years in Vermont, and I'm with Patrick Olsted from SE Group, who is a sub-consultant helping us out with the design of this project. And we've been working collaboratively with the city DPW staff and UVM. And we understand we have a limited time frame tonight, so 15 minutes for presentation and 5 minutes for Q&A. So given that, the improvement concepts that we're going to present tonight and a link to an online survey will be included on the city's website so that you can take some more time to review the concepts after this meeting, maybe not tonight, but maybe at your own leisure in more detail and provide feedback outside of the meeting if you desire. So with that, let's get right into it. So as Philip said, the purpose of the project was to transform University Place to make it a street that's more inviting for all the people who use it. And we completed a lot of work to date, including taking a look at the existing conditions of the street. And we also supplemented that investigation with an online survey early on in the process. And we did receive a lot of community response to the survey. We received over 500 responses, which was great information for us. And those survey responses confirmed our initial thoughts about the needs for this roadway. So some of the key takeaways was that we should be prioritizing bikes, pedestrians, and transit. One of the big issues is the number of crosswalks and where they're located and the sight lines to people using those crosswalks. There's a lot of on-street parking on the east side of the road, and that's in close proximity to those crosswalks, and those cars parked there block people, and cars coming down the road can't see people crossing. So reducing motor vehicle speeds was also identified as another need, potentially reducing traffic on the street as well, improving bicycle accommodations, and improving accessibility of those crossings If you've ever walked on that street, you'll notice there are some stairs immediately adjacent to the road at some of the crosswalk locations, which aren't accessible. So we did work with UVM and the city of Burlington to develop improvements, and we have developed a basic and enhanced improvement concepts that Patrick will present to you next. In general, the basic improvements are lower cost, transformative improvements that can be implemented short term. The enhanced improvements are higher cost and are considered more transformative than the basic. Important to note is that both options represent significant improvement over the existing conditions. And we're here tonight to present both those concepts to you and solicit any comments or questions that you may have. And another thing to note is that we're not necessarily asking you to select your preference of a basic versus enhanced. This decision is going to be made collaboratively between the city and UVM, and will depend largely on funding available and the timeframe desired for implementation. So with that, I think I rushed right through all that background. I'm going to transfer it over to Patrick so he can get to the concepts in front of you.
All right, thanks, Greg. So I'll start by just giving everyone a quick overview of the project area. Just to orient everyone, north is to the left on this map. This is University Place. So that is our study area, primarily within the right-of-way. The University Green, we have Main Street to the south, Colchester Ave to the north, and then this frontage of historic university buildings that face the green. So for the basic concept, we were really trying to work within the parameter of trying to limit the work to be within the existing roadway, kind of curb to curb to the degree possible. I think Greg mentioned that this is really trying to be the more economical option, I guess you would say, with the enhanced kind of taking it to a little higher level of improvement. So working within those existing curb lines does help kind of keep the costs down. But we are still trying to address some of the key design criteria that we've established for the project. One of those is to provide improved bike accommodations. And so the way we are proposing to accomplish that is in order to free up space within the roadway to make that happen, we are proposing to eliminate one lane of vehicular traffic. So we are showing the southbound lane going away and just maintaining northbound flow, which has more traffic. And that does free up space for bike lanes for the majority of the roadway. I'll talk a little bit more about that when I show the next more detailed slide. We are also trying to improve pedestrian safety. So one of the things that Greg mentioned was trying to consolidate sidewalks, or crosswalks, I should say. There are a lot of crossings out there now, and it creates sort of an unpredictable situation for drivers, having so many spots where people can come out into the road. Also, to address the visibility issue, for this scheme, we're proposing eliminating all the on-street parking, except for a designated food truck area in front of that Royal Tyler Hall Theater area to the south. So this shows out a little bit more detail, showing some spaces there for the food trucks. And again, we are working within those curb lines. This shows the striping that designates this southbound bike lane. In order to make this work with these spaces here, we do have to bring in bikes into the roadway for this first section. So this would be, kind of the Sharrows treatment, where you'd have those roadway markings within the road where bikes and motorists would be sharing the road for a stretch, coming off that shared use path, and then getting to a dedicated bike lane once you get in front of the old mill.
So Patrick, I hate to interrupt you, but Chapin wanted to make sure that I mentioned that although this is a basic design, we have discussed the possibility of taking that food truck area and notching the parking in to allow for a constant bike lane to go through. So other than that, the basic designs, we don't necessarily want to do anything with the curb, but it is something we're thinking about. So just remember, folks, these are concepts. These are concepts that we're just putting in front of you. no decisions are being made yet. Sorry, Patrick. Continue.
No, I appreciate that, Philip. Thanks. And I think it's important to note that, we've developed a kind of a baseline, basic concept, and we have an enhanced, and what we end up with might be somewhere in between the two. So I think that suggesting that curb line could come in is a good example of that. One of the other things we are proposing, which would be a modification to the curb line, is tightening the turn radius, so that cars coming off of Main Street and taking that right turn would have to slow down more than they currently do. You can see there's sort of a dash line in here that's a big turning radius, and with that angle of that road, cars can come in there pretty fast. And that was a comment we heard in the community survey, that is a concern. Also, with this one lane of traffic, you are reducing the overall width for pedestrians to cross and be exposed to traffic. So that is an improvement. So you move on to the north end. Another key improvement is to provide accessible crossings. So as Greg mentioned, there are these steps that create an impediment to accessibility. Those will be eliminated to create a flush condition so that someone in the green could cross the roadway, get onto this sidewalk that runs along University Place. And to make this happen, this one-way traffic, you do have to eliminate a turn lane, obviously, on Colchester Ave. You can't turn in there. So we also prepared this kind of alternative to the basic concept. Really, the only difference is that we included a drop-off area in front of IRL and Chapel. We did get, a number of people who responded to the community survey saying that it is important to provide some drop-off, and due to the kind of the number of events that happen at IRL, that seemed like a really good place to do that. This shows a typical section that kind of communicates the concept in section view. You can see the existing curb lines here. We are kind of sticking to that. And then with this, eliminating that one travel lane, we are freed up to do some really gracious bike accommodations, 5-foot bike lanes with these kind of striped buffer zones, 3 foot on the east side and 6 foot on the west side. And that shows kind of how that would look if that was implemented. So you can see the kind of striped areas. I did notice that these people are not practicing social distancing, but this is in a world post-COVID is what we're looking forward to. Everything's a little brighter in reality too. So that is that concept. And I'll move on to the enhanced. So the enhanced, we're addressing the same design objectives, but with this one, we have a little more flexibility in terms of maybe not necessarily sticking with those existing curb lines. So that provides an opportunity to do some, I think, interesting improvements that take it a little further. One of the things that's also included in this scheme that is not in the basic is a widened sidewalk on that east side of the road. And if anyone has ever walked on that sidewalk, you'll see that there's a lot of wear in the lawn along it, which is a good indicator that it's not wide enough to support the amount of pedestrian traffic with all the students and residents that are out there using that sidewalk. So we have a nice, gracious 10-foot wide sidewalk. We are dealing with crosswalk consolidation in a little bit of a very different way, actually, for this one. So I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. And I guess the other key thing is that we're really trying to enhance the kind of sense of place and the aesthetic that's kind of responding to this special place with this historic University Green and this historic building. So kind of taking a little bit further. Let's see. So I'll move on to the enlargement for that southern end of the road. So here you can see where we're showing a dedicated food truck area in the same location as the other one, except for bumping in that curb, outside of the existing, roadway. As Philip had suggested, that allows us to maintain bike lanes on both sides for this entire stretch, all the way to Colchester Ave. We also are proposing this idea of a consolidated crossing plaza. So the idea here is that we are trying to pick up, there's so many paths within the University Green. So we're trying to kind of funnel people to this centralized crossing. And for any sidewalks that aren't directly hitting into this, we are suggesting this idea of adding a sidewalk that's kind of along this edge of the green, for the central portion of the green, that would funnel pedestrians to this crossing. We had this one segment of sidewalk that we propose as being eliminated because it just ended at the curb, and that is definitely one of the weaknesses of the basic concept. But for this one, we are funneling people to that crossing zone pretty effectively. And there could be an opportunity for some green infrastructure within these green strips as well, like stormwater treatment. So for the northern section, you can see the continuation of that sidewalk and how that extends and connects into this existing diagonal path. And it might be hard to see, but this dashed line shows the existing curb line. And so you can see that we're actually widening the green in this concept and narrowing the overall roadway, I think from 30 feet to about 22 feet. So this also would have kind of enhanced traffic calming with that narrowing. Again, like with the basic, for the alternative version, we're showing some drop-off short-term parking in front of Ireland Chapel. To make that happen, we do have to jog the curb line back to the existing, or close to the existing, at least on the west side, to accommodate that. Otherwise, the concept is the same for this alternate version. So we have a couple typical sections that kind of give you a little bit more information to understand what we're proposing with the scheme. The top one is a curb, kind of a typical section for a curb roadway in front of Williams Hall and Old Mill. So this is kind of the typical condition that's kind of bookending that crossing zone. So you can see the existing curb line here, existing curb line there. So this is looking north. On the east side, we're sticking to that. And on the west side, we're bringing the curb line in. That allows us to get this sidewalk in and a green strip. And so the idea there is to try to minimize impacts to the green because there are some mature trees there. And with this green strip, we're showing some plantings, a low ornamental fence. And the concept for this is to try to prevent people from just cutting through and instead funneling people to those designated crossing zones. And that would be referencing the kind of detail you would see on Main Street. There's a low ornamental fence with some plantings running along the green on Main Street. So that's the inspiration for that. And then this curbless pedestrian crossing plaza. This is a kind of flush condition from between the sidewalks through the roadway with some use potentially of some bollards to help delineate the kind of general pedestrian traffic zones outside the roadway versus the crossing zone within the roadway. And this depicts kind of what that could potentially look like. The materials and colors would still yet be determined, but this gives you a sense of how this kind of overall crossing zone could be designed. And, I think it could be very effective to kind of, if you imagine driving down this road and seeing this, you would instantly recognize that this is a different kind of condition. It's more pedestrian oriented in character. And so cars would, naturally slow down seeing that. And it creates kind of an aesthetic kind of placemaking enhancement of University Place as well. And of course it would cost more. So, and this shows on the left, the plantings with that low ornamental fence kind of tying into that zone between the sidewalk in this central part of the green and this crossing zone. So that wraps up the design concepts. Greg, maybe I'll turn it back over to you or Philip to talk about the kind of upcoming community engagement process.
Yeah, I think it's important to note, folks, that this is not your only opportunity to see this presentation or to engage with us over the process. We will be presenting this at the Transportation, Energy, and Utilities Committee, the TUC, on September 22nd. And then we will be having a meeting with the Campus Master Plan Committee, I think September 24th. And then there's going to be a community at large meeting. And I think we're going to do that on September 30th. I'm not sure, Greg. Oh, look, it's all right there.
It's all right there.
Hey,
Right there, you got
guys
it.
thought it all. We thought of everything. This is amazing. Great job, Patrick.
It's a team effort.
It is. That's it.
So I think maybe now we'll open it up to any questions if anyone has them. So you can raise your hand. I'll put you on the speaking order. I see we have 2 hand raised. So why don't we go Sophie and then Dave? So you should be set to speak, Sophie.
As a student and as a pedestrian, I can tell you that every crosswalk you take away encourages cars to go faster, and you're asking them to come slower, but that is just a total signal to cars to go faster. And at the north end, where you've taken away the crosswalk that comes just before the end of the road, it's great that nobody's coming in the other direction, but that means the cars will go to the end of the road and they'll immediately want to turn. Whereas when the crosswalk was there, you could walk across and they would stop for you, and then they would go down and turn. But that makes the north end much more dangerous.
Are you referencing the basic concept or the enhanced, or both? I just want to be clear.
I'm looking at the concept where you've taken away the crosswalk on both of them. You've taken away the crosswalk on the north end. And all of them, you've taken away.
Closer. One thing to point out on the enhanced concept is that I didn't point this out, that there would be a new sidewalk that connects that diagonal sidewalk to.
Yes, but when you try to cross, they are trying to turn at the same time. If you try to cross to go east.
Yeah, I Laura Wheelock with DPW, I understand what you're saying, and that the crosswalk and the stop bar become a competitive item because of the challenge of Colchester Ave. So we can certainly take a look. These are concepts. They're not the final designs. Yep. The final design would occur this winter, and certainly pedestrian safety is first in our mind here.
So the next person with their hand raised is Dave, and then Jean.
Yes, thanks for the opportunity to take a look at this. It seems like a very interesting proposal. One question that comes up often is, where will all the cars that use that for parking now go? Have you had any discussions about that, and why do cars park there now?
So we started working with the University of Vermont a few years ago. Both the city and UVM identified that this is not in their parking management plan for anyone who is a staff, student, or faculty member of the campus. Part of the design work would be identifying the vehicles that are currently using it. I can note that throughout the entire pandemic, that street has been fully parked. Many times when the campus is supposed to be empty. So the thought is that there's likely a lot of parkers that belong to the medical center or some of the surrounding buildings, as the parking on University Place is currently unrestricted and can be used by anybody.
I'd also say that when we put the survey out, there was a tremendous amount of responses for pedestrian safety, bicycle safety, and there were not very many folks that were advocates for parked cars. They just were not, and people just not motivated for this street, at least from the survey, to make it or continue to have it to be any kind of parking lot.
Yeah, that bar chart in the lower right on this slide, this kind of captures what the feedback we got in terms of how people are using University Place. And again, at least for the people that respond to this survey, really high for walking, over 80%, bicycling next, and driving as a cut through between Colchester and Maine, I guess is slightly higher than that, but
not parking.
Not parking, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Parking was quite low.
Right, but there's always cars parked on the street, as we said. So those people didn't probably respond to the survey. So it'll be a good thing to try to make a wide outreach to the community, and to do some research who's using that for parking, because it could impact the rest of the neighborhood, right? We're working on other parts of the neighborhood where, parking's issue as well.
And I understand that. I think the survey was shared with the entire UVM community, the medical center, the local Ward 1, Ward 8 folks. The survey was shared, and these are just concepts right now. So we are taking folks' input, and happy to hear from people that are big advocates to continue to park there.
Thank you. And I think the last hand that is raised is Jean.
Yes, and I want to just support Sophie's comment about the more crosswalks you have, perhaps the slower the traffic will be. If it's going to be a one-way traffic, which I think is a good idea, people might get the idea that they can drive faster, but we need to definitely slow it down. I'm also interested in public transportation. I think there's a bus stop on the south end of the street. Not sure, but remember public and bus transportation.
I think it's important to note that we did have quite a few conversations around the crosswalk issue. It may seem like more crosswalks is a good thing. Actually, it's not. What you're creating is an effect where people in cars are not going to respect all the crosswalks or the crosswalk markings. Crosswalks are an important tool for us to use, and we need to use them judiciously. And we do have standards. We don't want crosswalks that are too close to each other. 200 feet is the minimum or the maximum or the minimum space that crosswalks can be away from each other. And there are quite a few crosswalks on University Place, and it may seem like a safer condition, but it's not. It really isn't.
Yeah, and I can talk briefly about the transit piece. We did coordinate with UVM and their transit service along the street, and the one-way concept northbound works with their transit circulation. So we have collaborated with them on that.
Good, thank you.
So I don't see any other hands raised. So last call.
So I did share the link for the website with Carol Livingston, and hopefully it gets distributed through everyone. There's my email address as well. There's a survey on the website that's up right now, and there's also a tab for tonight's presentation so that you can review it whenever you want to. And thank you very much. And great job, Patrick and Greg. You guys did a good job.
Thanks, Philip.
Thank you.
I think Jonathan has his hand raised.
If I could just a really quick question, it's more curiosity. With it going from two-way to one-way, I'm thinking about southbound bicyclists taking a left onto Main Street heading east. Does that become kind of a challenging situation there? Do you have to put a light in or something like that?
On the south end, the idea is that the crosswalk gets moved closer to Main Street and connects in with the multi-use path that is actually a diagonal across the green and then goes up the side of Main Street. So a commuting cyclist is certainly going to be challenged with the left, but there are options there for a majority of the people who are probably transporting around campus to use shared use paths.
Well, I guess I was thinking about bicyclists who are heading south on the street.
Yeah.
And then taking a left onto Main Street.
Right. I understand, what you're looking at there. There's off-road facilities in that immediate area that they're able to get onto to help them move east on Main Street.
You're saying that they don't do it now and they wouldn't do it then?
I'm saying we're providing another opportunity. Okay. If they feel confident and capable, or it's the right time of day, they can certainly go for it. I have really never encountered someone biking up Main Street in lane. Since the path and Main Street was reconstructed in the early 2000s.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's it for the night. So thank you all so much for coming. I'm glad we got to hear from everyone at the beginning of the meeting. So yeah, thank you all.
Thanks, Hannah.
Night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.